Finales are always some of the best episodes in every TV show, especially Ninjago. So today, we will be ranking every single season's final episode from worst to best. Also, before we start, I do have to mention that I won't be including the pilot finale in this list, since it was only a finale for a 2-episode season. In 16th place, we have everyone's favourite season, Secrets of Forbidden Spinjitzu. Now, this season's finale is pretty bland, because we don't really get to see a huge fight like we normally get to, because the whole thing is pretty much just Lloyd trying to get Zane to remember that he is a ninja. And I also don't really get how Zane remembers that he is a ninja when Vex says the word protect, because it just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Anyway, after they defeat Vex, the ninja regroup with each other, and they then realize that the Traveler's tree leaves aren't strong enough to get them back to Ninjago. But it is all fine because Cole has 2 cherries that will get them back to Ninjago. Anyway, Cole says goodbye to Crag, and Akita kisses Lloyd on the cheek, and she also mentions that she hopes to see Lloyd again, which could happen in Dragon's Rising at some point, and we might even get lucky and get a love triangle between Lloyd, Akita and Hirumi, because I'm sure Lego remembers how much everyone loved the last one. So, for 15th place, I've picked a Tournament of Elements finale, which I already know that everyone is going to hate me for placing it that low on this list. I'll admit, I'm not the biggest Season 4 fan, and I only really like the tournament parts of this season, and not really anything else. The finale was fine, but it could have definitely been much better, and Garmadon sacrificing himself was a pretty good scene, but for whatever reason, I just don't really like this finale. 14th place is the Prime Empire finale, and just like Tournament of Elements, I only really liked one part of the season, and that was when they were in the video game. It was a very different finale than most, because there was like no fighting at all. It was just Jay and Milton Dyer telling Unagami to stop, and that was pretty much it for this finale. 13th place is one of the most forgettable finales, The Islands. Now, I actually like this finale, and I don't really think that it was a letdown that Wajira ended up being a ship. Also, Jay floating on his chair raft thing was a pretty cool sequence, with the ninja failing to save him, and then they thought it was Eden. But then Lloyd finds that the tooth was made out of wood, and the keepers realize that they are idiots. Anyway, it turns out Grodin was behind everything, and I know a lot of people don't like that, but I think it makes sense for his character, seeing as he pretty much would do anything to make a quick buck. In 12th place, I have the Hands of Time finale, which isn't a bad finale, but it definitely wasn't the best. Firstly, how do the Elemental Masters think that Kai and Nia look like Ray and Maya, even though they don't look or sound anything like each other? And it doesn't make any sense why the Time Twins destroyed General Markia. I mean, they literally would have failed the entire mission without her. Also, how does Nia get the reversal blade so fast, because she wasn't gone for that long? And finally, couldn't the Time Twins just use the reversal blade to go back in time, or does the blade have a limit on how far back it can go or something? But that's enough of everything I don't like, or at least what doesn't make sense to me in this episode. Let's get on to what I like, and I really like the final battle in this episode. Kai, Nia and Wu have went on board of the Time Twins ship, and they fight each other for a little bit before Wu takes the reversal blade and gives it to Kai and Nia before they fall out of the Iron of Doom. Finally, why didn't Samurai X take the 2 pieces of candy that Jay offered her? Like, I would literally do anything for 2 pieces of candy. Anyway, in 11th place, we have the most disappointing finale, Crystallized. I think the start of the finale is good with Lloyd, Garmadon and Hirumi fighting the Overlord, but once Garmadon fakes his death, everything goes downhill, because straight after, Lloyd starts to get angry, and he starts to turn into his Oni form, which the entire season has been leading up to at this point, and then he uses it once, looks into a mirror, gets scared, and now we will never get to see his Oni form ever again. And I know I've probably mentioned this every time I've talked about Crystallized, but I absolutely despise the song choice they chose to end the entire 11-year saga from the pilots to Crystallized. What were they thinking when they chose this song? 10th place is going to be Seabound's finale, which is where these finales really start to get better in my opinion. In this episode, Nia has already merged with the sea, and she is fighting Rojira and Kalmar, and while she fought them, she got zapped with some lightning from Kalmar. So then Jay jumps on top of Rojira and fights Kalmar. which is such a good fighting sequence in my opinion. And then after a little bit, Nia comes back as a water dragon and defeats Rodrigo. And of course, when Nia and Jay were on the building and Nia just walked past Jay was sad, but at least before Nia left, she hugged Jay, and that was so sad to watch because we just saw how sad Jay was. And finally, the funeral was extremely sad, and I don't know why I didn't include it in my saddest moments video. In 9th place, we have March of the Oni's finale. I like how at the start, Cole was talking to himself while he was in the darkness, which is a neat callback to Season 8. But what's weird is that everyone could just hold the golden armor without dying, which we all know that shouldn't be happening. Anyway, Kai melts the armor to recreate the golden weapons, which is a cool scene. Then, shortly after the Oni come back, they fight. Cole comes back to the monastery, and Garmadon's Oni face might just be the weirdest thing to have ever seen in my entire life. Anyway, once they go inside the monastery, Jay proposes to Nia, which is just such a good moment, which we've all pretty much been waiting to see since Season 1. Anyway, they all eventually start to do the Tornado of Creation, and it always felt weird to me that they all did the Tornado of Creation. Like, why wasn't it just Jay, Kai, Zane, and Cole? We could have even have seen the OG Tornado of Creation scenes from Season 1 come back. Anyway, I guess it is fine for Lloyd and Wu to join, since their powers are kind of creation. And I guess it is fine for Nia to join as well, but Garmadon's power is literally destruction, so why did he have to join? Anyway, in the end, the Oni are destroyed, Lloyd goes to heaven and meets the first Spinjitzu master, but then he comes back alive, and finally, Ninjago, Masters of Spinjitzu comes to an end, and in my opinion, it was a pretty good finale to an absolutely amazing show. 8th place is definitely going to be a very unpopular opinion since I'm going with Skybound's finale. So in this episode, Narukon gets infinite wishes because he married Nia, and then Narukon started blasting his wish powers to get rid of his old crew, except Flintlock and Dogshank, because they're going away with the ninja. Eventually, Flintlock gets a hold of the Tiger Widow venom on the Misfortune's Keep, and even though Narukon granted a wish that meant that Flintlock couldn't shoot properly, he could do it just fine. Anyway, Narukon turned some of the ninjas into gold statues, which would actually be pretty cool to see as minifigures. Then Flintlock shoots the Tiger Widow venom at Narukon just before he goes to hug Nia. So they both end up getting shot, so Nia starts dying, and Jay accidentally uses his last wish and saves Nia. And I know a lot of people hate how it ended, and I get that, but I sort of like it, seeing as that is very different to just a big fight which we normally get to see. So, for 7th place, I have decided to go with Season 5's finale episode. In this episode, the ninja basically just try to get the preeminent into the ocean, and Nia also unlocks her true potential to defeat the preeminent, which is my second favourite true potential scene, because obviously Lloyd's is the best. Anyway, Moro dies in the ocean, and Lloyd says that he is going to become a sensei. Anyway, I really liked this episode, and also next week I will be releasing my video about possession, so I would highly recommend subscribing so you don't miss out on that video if you are enjoying this one so far. For 6th place, I have chosen Master of the Mountains finale. I just really enjoyed this episode with the ninja and the monks and also the geckos all fighting the Skull Sorcerer's skeletons, and of course Cole battling the Skull Sorcerer. Also, the scene where the Skull Sorcerer destroys Cole's blades and he realizes that the blades actually aren't that special, so he does the Spinjitzu burst to defeat the Skull Sorcerer is a cool scene. Then, in the end, Vanya becomes queen, and the very last scene of the season, Wu says that they will go wherever Destiny's Bounty takes them, and to this day, I still want to know where they went. Also, how could I forget about Cole's mum's flashback scene where she tells Cole to stand up to bullies, which definitely fits in with Cole's character and has probably shaped who Cole is today. Now, I'm actually extremely surprised to have put this finale all the way up in 5th, and that finale being Season 1's finale. I don't know, I just really liked this episode. So much happens in it as well. It starts off with the ninja running away from the Great Devourer in the bounty before it eventually gets destroyed. Then they all go to Ed and Edna's scrapyard, and they create my personal favourite Ninjago vehicle, the ultrasonic radar. Then they dive all the way down to Ninjago City, where the Ultra Dragon comes and fights the Great Devourer. But of course, it isn't enough, so the ninja give the golden weapons to Garmadon so he can take revenge on the Great Devourer by using the weapons to hit the Great Devourers. Anyway, I do really like how the ninja just run around the entire city to get the Great Devourer to get stuck in the city so he can't move. The fourth best finale is the original finale for the entire show, and that is of course the final battle of Season 2. This is just such a great episode. It starts with the ninja stranded on the Dark Island, so they go up to the Temple of Night where Lloyd gets his mech, and then the Ultra Dragon comes to the rescue to get everyone else back to Ninjago City. And speaking of Ninjago City, the Overlord has taken over, and the city is a dark shade of purple now. The ninja fight the Stone Army, but they aren't strong enough, but guess who is Dareth? He initially put on the helmet that controls the Stone Army without even knowing what it does. What a legend. And honestly, without him, Ninjago would be destroyed. Then, in one of the best scenes in the entire show, the ninja helped Lloyd up the steps of Borg Tower, and one by one, they all get turned into these evil guys, until there is just Lloyd left. And then, in the best scene out of any TV show or movie or anything else like that, Lloyd unlocks his golden powers and defeats the Overlord, at least until Season 3. Anyway, the final scene is also brilliant, where they all celebrate together and Garmadon becomes a good guy. My third favourite finale is the third season, Rebooted. I know that Rebooted gets a lot of hate, but everyone can agree that this episode absolutely bangs. The ninja are stuck on the moon and eventually escape and build their own rocket ship because they're just like that. Anyway, back in Ninjago, the Overlord has built like a dome of buildings around Ninjago City so no one can get in. So naturally, the ninjas make holes in the buildings so they can get inside. So then, after getting chased by the Overlord, the ninja end up in this temple, which I've forgotten what it was called. Anyway, there Cyrus Borg gives them a shrinking pill, which Wu and Garmadon are going to use their sick baseball skills to get inside the Overlord's mouth, which of course goes in Pythor's mouth instead. Anyway, the Overlord grabs the ninjas and the senseis with his tentacles except Zane, so he uses them as platforms to jump across to get to the Overlord and defeat him. I won't talk about this part too much since I talked about it in my saddest moments video, but I can just say that this scene is just so well made and very emotional. My second favourite finale is Hunted's finale. It starts with the ninja and Wu coming back to Ninjago after being in the first realm for the whole of that season. The OG 4 ninja use a dragon to take down the Stone Colossus, and I think that is just so cool how they all work together to do that. And then Lloyd and Wu go up to the Garmadon to fight him, and Lloyd gets his powers back and he defeats him by using the Art of the Silent Fist, which Garmadon actually taught him at the start of Season 3. Anyway, the ninja all celebrate, and Wu eventually goes back to his old self. Now, my favourite finale is Sons of Garmadons. It's just a perfect finale in my opinion. The ninja give up most of their elemental power to save Lloyd, and then Kai, Jay, Zane, Cole and Pixel go to Garmadon and the Colossus to fight him, but they are too powerful, while Lloyd goes to get baby Wu to save him from Garmadon. Anyway, Harumi chases Lloyd across the city, and eventually he catches up to the other ninja who are on the bounty, but he can't get on, so he decides to absolutely yeet baby Wu onto the bounty. But then the Stone Colossus crushes the bounty, but luckily the ninja have a tea bag that took them all the way to the first realm. This finale is just perfection, and also just one of the best episodes of the entire show. So that is the list, and as always, see you later, be ninja.